Affairs of the Donors Alliance, senior members of the Patriotic Front and members of Parliament present. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, you've been invited to this very important media address by various members of Parliament. And at this stage, let me not take too much of a time. But indeed, as we all know, we had the head of state, after raising so many expectations of the nation, he did address the media, and this is our reaction. At this point in time, allow me just to invite Honorable Member of Parliament for Chilubi, that is Mr. Mulenga Fure, just to take. Sorry, we will start with Honorable Mtoteka Fire, Member of Parliament for Lunte, to address the media. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much, Honorable Emmanuel Tembo. I could as well be an MP for Chilubi, but for now I'm in Lunte. Allow me to begin by first recognizing the presence of leaders, the Tonse Parliamentary Chief, who is Honorable Brian Munduvile, the MCC, Senior MCC, Honorable George Sanga, who is also the legal committee chairperson for the Patriotic Front Party. I recognize Honorable Fuve, Honorable Kapampi, Honorable Pavyuma Kalobo, and my young man from Nakonde, Honorable Smumba. If you allow me, I would like to recognize the media as well as countrymen and women who have the opportunity to listen to us. Now, as Honorable Emmanuel Tembo said, the President spoke to the nation yesterday. Before the President spoke to the nation, I appeared on an interview on one TV platform where a young man asked me what my expectations were from the President. I told the young man that I expected nothing to come out of that presser. Because I thought that the President was going to talk about the same old things that he has always talked about. I don't know how I will be judged by those who listen to the President. Now, since the President spoke and he made reference to a number of things, I would like to address maybe one or two issues in reaction to that. The President talked about the actions of the church, the Oasis Forum, and related entities. I was very saddened when I heard the President saying some church players are hiding in church, projecting their ethnicity. I think that is wrong. It shouldn't be said of the President, because Jesus Christ, who is our Lord and Savior, does not belong to any ethnicity. And all of us, from south to north, east to west, and all areas in between, have a right to belong to churches that we choose. I would like to remind the President that the UPNG is associated with disrespecting the clergy. It is a member of the UPNG who called the clergy a Lucifer. Please don't forget that. It is the UPNG police who cordoned the Cathedral of the Child Jesus. It is UPNG police who summoned the priest in Ndola for merely delivering a homily. It is the UPNG police who went and stopped ECL from meeting a bishop in Kabwe. It is the UPNG police who scattered a church gathering at Olympic Stadium here in Lusaka not so long ago. It is also the UPNG police who caused ECL, or who stopped ECL from worshipping with clergymen in Ndola and scattered that gathering. For the President now to elevate this disrespect for the church is really unfortunate. I would like to call upon the President to stop thinking of ethnicity in church. I am PAOG myself, Pentecostal Assemblies of God. When you come to Tabernacle of David Assembly, where I worship, where you will find no ethnicity there. I have worshipped in the Roman Catholic Church. I have worshipped in the Seventh-day Adventist. I have worshipped in the United Church of Zambia. I have worshipped in many churches. I do not see ethnicity being projected. I think it was careless, and I also think that the president just shouldn't project such kind of thoughts. It is irresponsible for him to talk in that fashion. The other thing I would like to comment on very briefly is about what the president thinks of himself. I'm very worried to hear the president saying that he thinks people really hate him or hate him because of where he comes from. I think that is very poor for President Hakainde Hichilema to continue thinking of himself in that fashion. Why do I say so? Just 4 years ago, the Zambian people gave him 2.8 million votes. And if people hate him because of where he comes from, why did they give him 2.8 million votes? When his closest rival was given 1 million less, 1.8. I think his claims are unjustifiable. They are inflammatory. The president should desist from making, such pronouncements. What people are rejecting is Bill 7. And what is terrible about Bill 7 is that it is president-driven. Why should you be the one as a president who is promoting the amendment of the Constitution more than any other Zambian? You should be regulated by the Constitution. The Constitution is there to regulate your conduct as president, to regulate your conduct as government. And so you can't be in the forefront of wanting to amend the very document that regulates you. So my view is that you should stop projecting things which are false. In 1991, when the Constitution was amended, 1991 was not an election year. Dr. Kaunda brought forward the election. We were supposed to go to election in 1993. So the Dr. Kaunda brought forward the elections in view of the wishes of the people. Let me remind you that process was driven by civil society after all the difficulties that people were facing. So you cannot say that UNIP changed the constitution in an election year, therefore you should also be allowed to do so. No, sir. The election of that time was supposed to happen in 1993 and not 1991. And that particular amendment was people driven. People wanted to go back to multipartyism. That was the only thing that was happening in that particular amendment. The 2016 amendment, which you talk about, 2016 amendment is a collection of a number of commissions. It's a collection of the NCC, it's a collection of the Mungomba Commission, and that particular amendment took so long, over 10 years of collecting information. And the fact that the actual amendment took place in the election year of 2016 doesn't mean that the election year is the best year to amend the constitution. If you can beat the standard of consultation, of collecting information over the period spanning over 10 years, nobody can blame you. But your own constitutional amendment has taken less than a year. Your minister announced this process, even demanding the process that the National Assembly should take to enact such a flawed process. It is irresponsible for the president to make comparisons which cannot be compared, and I'm calling upon him to desist. Look at the main thrust of the 2016 amendments. It was to introduce 50+1. Who has argued against 50+1? It was to introduce the running mate. Who has argued against the running mate? It was to put a fixed date for the elections. Who has argued against the fixed date of elections? But now, let's come to your amendments. What do you want to do? You want to bring 92 members of parliament into the house. You want to expand the cost of running government. At one point, I always tell you, sir, and your government, that this is not the time to expand the cost of running government. This is time to reduce the cost of running government so that you make savings, which savings then can go to the farmers that your Minister of Agriculture has failed to pay after collecting maize for so long. It is now rainy season. People are supposed to be tilling their land and planting. They can't do so. You are holding their money. But what are you thinking about? It is not them. It is introducing 92 members of parliament. I think this level of irresponsibility must be stopped. And I thought I should mention and urge the president, I think, to be a little more scientific when he speaks to the nation. I think from my point of view, the president said nothing that is progressive. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Zakafaya. At this time, without wasting much time, I will call upon Honorable Mlenga Fube to address the media on another and other very, very important issues in reaction to yesterday's press briefing by the head of state. And indeed, as indicated, it is only right for the nation to react. And there are so many issues. I thank you. Mr. Honorable Fube.
Thanks so much, Honorable Tembo. First things first. On the onset, I would like to call... I would like to call on the president to be presidential whenever he's addressing the nation. Why I say so is that the constitution is very straightforward. The president's address to the nation was more to his cadres than the nation. And I think the constitution is very straightforward in articles 90, 91 and 92 of what is required of the president. As a build on what Honorable Kafua said, we expected a lot from that presser, especially that they called it a major press conference. But I think it was corrupt to something that just divided the nation than building the nation. I think for starters, the president is supposed to respect, uphold, and safeguard the constitution. His behavior so far has demonstrated that the president cannot respect the constitution. And the starting point, I want to address even what he calls that it's a build up to what he calls that is hated. The president should learn to be consistent. What he used to say when he was in opposition and what he's doing now are parallels. Are parallels in that when you look at what he said on the 2016 constitution, when he was referring to constitutional amendments that have happened before, when he said Dr. Kaunda's amendment was allowed in an election year, I think that has been explained. The amendment of Article 4 then, to allow multi-party to actually come from the one-party state, which was introduced in by the Choma Commission, which was the 1972 constitution, was agreed by everybody. And when you look at any other, amendments that have happened to the constitution, we agreed. Mr. President, you need to be informed that, as you say in your phrase, that is the first time that a constitutional amendment is starting with a bill into parliament and then go back to consulting the people. It is for the first time. And the Bill 7 is of that characteristic. Not even Bill 10 started with that particular approach. Mr. President, maybe we need to be also bring to speed certain issues. You referred to the PF inclusion of 6 constituencies to the constitution, which was amended, and I think that was agreed by the people. And when you use the tone of a despot, when you were trying to justify the issue of the constitution, I think it was not sitting well, because you forgot that these other constitutional amendments were done by the people, and then they were developed into a bill. Let me address the issues of constituencies as the president wanted us to believe. The the 2016, the Bill 10 at the convention where you participated as a political party, as UPND, and out of that, 94 constituencies were developed, and they are there sitting at the ECZ in the report of 2019, which was made public, and anyone who was debating Bill 10 knew that they will be talking about 94 constituencies. What is the problem with the constituencies you are suggesting now? You are the only one who knows the 55 constituencies, where they are. And then you continue whipping the emotions of the people that they hate you because when you are keeping information from them. 55 constituencies, even me, I don't know about them. It is only your party that knows the 55 constituencies where they are. And yet you want us to join you into championing delimitation. Yes, the constitution does talk about reviewing the boundaries of not less than after 10 years and naming them, naming the constituencies, the wards, as well as the constituencies. I agree with that particular, but not in a secretive manner that you want to take the document like it's a personal document where you take people in the field and they go and do the delimitation exercise. Then you keep the 55 constituencies to yourself and they are not known, not by, just maybe by the members of parliament. Now, when we want to address the question of the constitution, I think I have already said that you have not demonstrated the behavior attractive enough for Zambians to join you in the constitution making process. Let me address the question of the church. I saw the ministers, they called themselves Catholic ministers. 6 of them, senior Catholic ministers, which doesn't even exist in our catechumen. Not even in our canon law or anything, it doesn't exist. The senior Catholic members, that is not an existing term in our Catholic parameters. But I want to address them to say that, first of all, you cannot divide the church. I want to tell you that you can't divide the church. The church has survived a lot of turbulence. And I think the church is within its social gospel. What is referred to also as social justice. And there are 10 principles that guide the church on making sure that they contribute. And it's just simply based on the fact that the church realizes that before a human being enters heaven, they are part of earth. And in earth, there are a lot of temptations that the church talks about. And I think that's why you find that even the Lord Jesus Christ, in reference to the last judgment, talks about, in Matthew 25, talks about, I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me water. I was homeless, you sheltered me. I was naked, you gave me clothes. I was in prison, you visited me. I was in hospital, you did what? You visited me. And that is the mission of the church. That is the reason why the church is participating in hospitals. That's why the reason the church is participating in the education sector, and the church is participating in many other social sectors. But you cannot take away now from the church that they should, because there is President Hakainde at State House, the church should stop speaking. I think I want to refer your advisors and yourself to a book written by Father Joko Makoma, which has compiled on the statements written by the church. And when I say the church, I don't just mean the Catholic Church. From 1963, I think up to 2001, Father Joko Makoma compiled all the statements. And I think one of the 4 runner and the standing out statement in those statements, it is on the Constitution on Let My People Go, which was written on the 3rd term. The Let My People Go pastoral letter, which was written by the 3 mother bodies, is there to explain. So, if President Hichilema wants to collapse this particular debate, as important as it may be, onto hatred, onto that is an isolated president, who has even forgotten that 2.8 million voted for him, I think he's missing a point. President Hichilema, let me speak in Bemba now. I know that in speaking in Bemba, I'm not trying to be regional. It's something that I can be frequent in. ba president twami papata nga namupelelwa mwasanga tumanyingira kubonde wachimperesha mwirabu tukila kufya kulanda ati nabampatana nkufya region. And I think as I've demonstrated, there were 94 prepared constituencies that were supposed to be divided. And out of those, 29 were supposed to be in Southern Province, where you come from. And 29 were supposed to be in Eastern Province, where the president then, Edgar Lungu, was coming from. And then the rest were distributed as such. So to say and to portray a narrative that the constituencies then were done on discriminatory lines and now have come to correct. Mr. President, stop it. That is not why you were elected to do that. I think the Constitution gives you powers in Article 91 to demonstrate unity. Further, the values, the national values, gives you powers to demonstrate unity. You should be a campus of unity, and you should be a campus of morality. You should be a campus of integrity. When you start preaching regional, masked in your statements by saying that the constituencies which were divided before you became presidents were done on discriminatory lines, I think that we refuse. And I think that we are not going to buy into it. You should stop it, Mr. President. You are supposed to be encouraging unity. And I think you are the one actually that we can accuse of not being transparent, of not being sincere, by hiding the 55 constituencies that you have been talking about in the report that you have just done. So what we appeal to you, Mr. President, is that sober up. And I think, first the music as it is, you have done things wrongly by bringing the bill first before you consulted the people. That is where everything went sour. Now I want to address Mr. President that I was very sad when you talked about the issue of demonstrations, which you participated in before, which even propelled you to the presidency. If you were not given the space, you wouldn't have been the president today. If your cadres were not given the space, you wouldn't have been the president today. You saw you lifting placards on the Constitution. What has gone wrong that the others should lift the placards? And even you, the police, you should bear in mind that there is Article 93, where you are supposed to protect the rights of the people. It is not just Cap 113 that exists. There is also 193 that gives the powers to the police so that you can protect the rights of the people. And the Bill of Rights has not been suspended in this nation. Mr. President, you should not participate in violence by saying that when the peaceful protection, protest is supposed to go on, then the people should meet those who are more powerful. Are you agreeing with Riswaniso, who said that he is going to join in a violent way to disrupt the demonstration? Mr. President, we expect a lot from you. We are all your children, and if we are all your children, I need to leave you with a message that encourage unity at all costs, instead of where people should be encouraged. We know what Mosquito has been saying about violence. I was so shocked that you endorsed that particular, element. Mr. President, I have just to call on to you that you should be a symbol of unity. You should not be a symbol of division. What you did yesterday was not good, was not constitutional, was not republic. It was partisan. And you are not a president for UPND. Speak with a tone that speaks to all of us. Then all of us are going to go in tandem with your leadership. Further to that, I think we will disagree. And we want to make it very clear that we will not go with anyone who encourages disunity in the nation. I think I end here, my coordinator.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Fube. I think Honorable Fube has given the historical role the church has played in Zambian politics. And I think that he's brought up a number of key issues. And also reminding this current president on how the church stood with him whilst he was in opposition. At this stage, in fact, let me also mention that for the first time in the history of this country, members of cabinet, they are taking sides with their government against the church where they got to. Now, this reminds me of President Nevers Mumba, who said that, you know, being vice president was more fruitful in terms of travel than when he was a pastor. Now we need to realize that spiritual matters are more important than physical matters. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, as we continue deliberating on these issues, allow me just to invite the chairperson, legal, Patriotic Front, also Honorable Member of Parliament for Lukasha. This is no other than Honorable George Sanga to address the media. Honorable, you can proceed.
Honorable Temba, the moderator, thank you very much. Let me also start by recognizing the presence here of the leader or the chairperson for Constitutional Affairs in the Tonse Alliance and the contestant in the upcoming elections for presidency of the Patriotic Front, Honorable Brian Mundubile, who continues to be recognized by us as the de facto leader of opposition in Parliament. I recognize also my colleagues who are sitting with me here, honorable members of Parliament, who have escorted us to come and speak to the press about this issue that has become topical in the last 24 hours. I've been introduced as a chairman for Legal and Constitutional Affairs. So if you permit me, let me start my address to you by quoting from the Constitution the responsibility, and I should say the onerous responsibility, that are placed on the shoulders of the Republican President by Article 90 and Article 91 of the Republican Constitution. I quote, "The executive authority derives from the people of Zambia and shall be exercised in a manner compatible with the principles of social justice and for the people's well-being and benefit." Article 90. Article 91, "There shall be a president of the Republic who shall be the head of state and government and the commander-in-chief of the defense forces." Article 91(2), "The executive authority of the state vests in the president and subject to this constitution shall be exercised directly by the president or through public officers or other persons appointed by the president." Okay, Article 91(3) says the president shall, in the exercise of executive authority of the state, A, respect and uphold and safeguard the Constitution, B, safeguard the sovereignty of the Republic, C, promote democracy and enhance the unity of the nation, D, respect the diversity of different communities in Zambia, E, promote and protect the rights and freedom of a person, and F, uphold the rule of law. Now, I say this to underscore with emphasis the onerous responsibility that our Constitution places on a person who has the privilege to be the Republican president of this country. The last 24 hours have been quite a shocking experience to the average Zambian, who had high expectations of what the president was going to address the nation on, when he had the privilege after 18 months to date the nation at the press conference and speak to matters that have become topical, especially concerning the attempt to amend the Constitution. Everybody has raised concern with the tone of the voice with which the president spoke to the nation and with the threats that he issued against certain sectors of the nation. Somebody showed me a clip of the president when he was in the opposition, when he had an opportunity to voice his concern and disapproval of Bill 10, which was being piloted by the Patriotic Front when it was in power. What was the background to that Bill 10 was the fact that there was negotiation between the UPND and the Patriotic Front, among others, to agree with content of Bill 10. And unfortunately, when the UPND discovered that PF was going to get credit for passing Bill 10, they set out on a mission to frustrate Bill 10. And they enlisted all the members of parliament for the UPND and others outside parliament, other stakeholders, including the church. The church was very pivotal at that time to reject Bill 10 because of the reasons that were advanced to it by the UPND. The president at that time was thanking the bishops especially for having vociferously stood against Bill 10. And he said the church should always continue to be respected, in its standing with the downtrodden in society. And I asked myself, Mr. President, what has changed? For me, yesterday I was very convinced that everybody in this nation has not changed. It's only the president who has changed. And I think from the tone of his language and the speech that he gave to the nation, I drew the conclusion that maybe it is not the whole UPND which is piloting or which is pioneering the enactment of Bill 7. It is actually the president in his individual capacity. Because how can somebody be so angry with the whole nation? How can somebody be so angry with certain sections of the nation that he is able to voice out in a fashion that he voiced out at the time when somebody wants to hear the president speak about unity? He chose to speak about division. I was very astounded to hear the president warn citizens, especially citizens who have complied with the law. Because the Oasis Forum, in calling for this protest, they said we are going to ensure that we comply with the law. And indeed, they went ahead and complied with the law by notifying the police that they were going to organize a march past in protest against Bill 7. Between threats and requests for dialogue, the president sounded very angry and sounded very offended with certain sections of our society. And warned that in fact, when they go out there, they're likely to find much more powerful people. And when they are sorted out, we should not blame the government. I have this analysis to make. We have between two sides. There's one side where there are people who have complied with the law and they want to go and demonstrate, which is allowed by the Constitution. We have on the other side, a group of who, for lack of a better term, I would call thugs, because they are not cadres. Because if somebody can take an opportunity to go on his Facebook page and issue a warning to innocent citizens that if you're going to demonstrate as in compliance with the law, you're going to face me on the street. That is staggering. That is a declaration of intent to go and commit a serious offense. And we have in between these two positions, a Republican president. And with what I read in the Constitution, Zambians had expectations of a certain tone that the president was going to use, and also give a certain direction on how the affairs of the nation was going to be conducted. I had expected truly that yes, the president was going to call for dialogue, but you don't call for dialogue while masking your call for dialogue in threats. And while sounding like you are prepared to unleash the political thugs on people that are going to conduct their affairs peacefully, to put them into threat. And as matters have unraveled, the Oasis Forum today has called off this protest. I want to make the case that the Oasis Forum has not called off this protest out of fear brought to bear on them by what the president said yesterday. No. And if anybody would think that the Oasis Forum and its partners have suspended or deferred this protest in fear of what the president said, they are making a big mistake. The Oasis Forum has deferred this protest out of concern, out of love for the nation, and also out of the quest to give dialogue a chance. So nobody should take capital from the decision that has been made by the Oasis Forum to defer this protest. And I want to now make a call on the president that in response to what the Oasis Forum has done, it is now the responsibility of the president to also take a leaf of what the Oasis Forum has done. Build, consensus on the dialogue. Let's speak to each other. But what is very, very clear with what the Oasis Forum has done and what everybody else, have spoken about today, the people of Zambia have voiced their discontentment against Bill 7. And in so doing, the people of Zambia have not exhibited any amount of hatred for the president. And this is why, like everybody else here, we are concerned that the president can brand those who speak in opposition to Bill 7 as people that hate him, people that are using the church to, purvey hatred, and people that are using ethnicity to oppose the president because of where he comes from. I have been very concerned for a long time myself with the tone of the president when he talks about ethnicity. Very early in his presidency, one time when he came from abroad, at the airport, a journalist asked this president a very innocent question. The answer that the president gave, he branded a certain group of Zambians as hegemonists. And he accused them of being individuals who have been feeding off government without doing any work. And who had now become very angry because somebody who comes from a tribe that they didn't expect to be president had become president. It was very early in his presidency when he said that. I raised that issue in the media and I said the president must temper his speech when he's speaking to his people. Because now he has become a Republican president. Even those who didn't vote for him are now his citizens of the country, on which he's got a constitutional mandate to govern their affairs. I even said, even those that he thinks hate him, those are his citizens. He must be able to demonstrate that he's going to lead as a president over and above these people. But of course, at that time, people were thinking PF speaks from a standpoint of hate because they're angry having lost power. Nobody paid attention to what we said. But this tone has remained consistent in the president's engagements with the public. Every time he accuses certain sections of society of being tribal, at the time when the country needs him to unite the nation. And I have called on the president. I have said, sir, please begin to speak in a manner that unites rather than divides this nation. Because that is what Article 90 and 91 of the Constitution demands of a president. Very briefly, Chair, on Bill 7 and on the Technical Committee, we are now in a state of confusion as a nation. We don't know whether we are going or we are coming. You saw how UPND politicked on Bill 7, what was explained here by my colleagues. By the time we were leaving Parliament at that time, what we had was not we didn't abandon Bill 7. There was a deferment of Bill 7. So insofar as we as parliamentarians are concerned, Bill 7 is on the floor of the House. There's no, this bill has not been withdrawn. And for me, it behooves me that we are sitting with Bill 7, which is supposed to be considered by parliamentarians when we're in Parliament. Suddenly, there's a technical committee that has been appointed. And the appointment of a technical committee was also shrouded in high-level controversy. Because what you saw as citizens was that names were published of people who were in the technical committee. And first, the UPND was not even prepared to appoint a technical committee. Even when the Constitutional Court guided them to appoint a technical committee, they were not initially prepared to appoint a technical committee. It is only when the bishops issued a letter, and that's why you must understand when the president is now criticizing the bishops. It is only when the bishops issued that strong pastoral letter where they said Bill 7 is evil, because it didn't comply even with the guidelines that were given to the government by the Constitutional Court. That's when you saw this president appoint a technical committee. Again, it's shrouded in controversy, because what you first saw was the names were published. And 4 days after, they were sworn in. All that time, we did not know what the terms of reference for the technical committee was. And people were wondering, how can you appoint a technical committee without giving it terms of reference and have it sworn in? But see, our friends consider the law and the Constitution as a convenience and not an imperative. And even complying with steps, they don't consider it imperative. Why? Because they've got a target. For them, they want Bill 7 to pass at whatever cost. By any means necessary, Bill 7 must pass. So even the process you put in place doesn't matter to them. And that's why you saw terms of reference being rolled out 4 days after the committee was put in place. And those terms of reference, like we expected, was basically a replication of Bill 7. So you now frame terms of reference straight-jacketed in what is contained in Bill 7 and say to the people for 3 weeks, go and speak to the whole nation. Who consults in the whole nation in 3 weeks? I've just come from radio. I was called by Mr. Chilando, who is a civic leader and who is visually impaired. He was saying we had expected that if these guys were looking for the whole nation to consult, they should have even reduced the technical committee report or the Bill 7 itself or whatever terms of reference into Braille for those who are visually impaired to actually be able to read. I'm sure even our friends who are also, different to able have issues. They have not been taken on board. 3 weeks, you want to consult and change the constitution in a fashion that is suggested by Bill 7? No, sir. And this is why the president must introspect. When people raise these issues and then you say, oh no, they hate me. Oh no, because of where I come from. It is these issues, Mr. President, that people would like you to preside over. For me, the best thing that should happen going forward, especially because the Oasis Forum has even taken steps that sound much more reasonable, is for this president to sit with stakeholders and agree that we suspend this nefarious agenda of wanting to enact a law where people are not even properly consulted, where stakeholder consultation, has not been taken in a very objective way, where you have not complied with the guidelines that were given to you by the Constitutional Court. We have a duty to do, Mr. President. Zambia needs so much beyond this constitutional amendment. You were available when we were doing Act number 2 of 2016. You saw exactly what transpired in the precursor to the enactment of 2016. The Patriotic Front started that journey in 2011 and were only able to come up with the end product in 2016, even when it was scattered in between. And when you talk about the fact that people don't like you because they don't want you to pass Bill 7, you yourself admitted Bill 10 collapsed. Did Edgar Lungu come and say they hated him? No. It is because people were not satisfied with what was contained in Bill 7. So what is good for the gander must be good for the goose. So let's talk about this language using the subject and not individuals who are at play. I thought I should just make those remarks, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sanga. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you will agree with me that this country has got great minds. In the legal fraternity, Honorable George Sanga is one of the great legal minds. Now, he did remind me, because the president said he was hated. I mean, if he had stopped there, it would have been okay. But he went on to say that he's hated because he didn't choose where he was born, implying that he's hated because of origin. Now, just a few weeks ago, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde, did mention and admitted that he had failed to address the problems of load shedding. Whilst we all know that he's been exporting power to other countries, whilst we've had this problem. Now, why should it now be that, is it because he's hated, I mean, he failed to address the issue of load shedding because of where he comes from? No, that's what it is. So, when it comes to public affairs, we expect the president to lead and unite the country. And never at any time to refer to that. Now, at this stage, we have the last speaker who's going to look at a number of issues, starting from the same issue of constitutional amendments, the issue of the Oasis Forum and, the earlier planned protest, the issue of the role of the church in governance of this country, of course, issues of debt, economic performance, and indeed, the issue of violence. But not forgetting our farmers. The farmers did a good job. And the UPND, without any effort, they are trying to take credit that we have a bump harvest. But look how they are mistreating the farmers. They borrowed the maize. In that they collected maize. They did not buy. The word they are using, they are saying they've bought maize from farmers. No, they collected maize on credit and they've refused to pay. And now we are going to this. Now, at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, allow me just to invite a rare son of this country. This is no other than the chairperson, Tonse Alliance, Honorable MP from Polokoso, former Minister, Northern Province, a former government chief whip, a presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front in view of the 2026 general election. And this is no other than a man who loves this country, who has the interests of all Zambians at heart. This is Honorable Brian Muntayalwa Mundubire. I welcome you, sir, to address the nation as well as the media.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members of the press, I will start by recognizing the presence of members of Central Committee, Honorable George Sanga, who spoke earlier, and indeed our Director of Ceremonies this afternoon, Honorable Emmanuel Tembo of Feira, and of course, Honorable Sanga is from Lukasha, Member of Parliament for Lukasha. I recognize the Member of Parliament for Busakile. This is no other than Honorable Pavyuma Kalobo. I recognize the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nakonde, Honorable Lucas Simumba, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chilubi, Honorable Mulenga Fube, Honorable Member for Mpika, Honorable Francis Robert Kapianga. Countrymen and women, these are honorable members representing the people from their constituencies. Yes, Honorable Kampampi has just joined us, Honorable Member for Mansabombwe. You're welcome. So the honorable members seated here represent their constituencies. So they are here in their representative capacities. When the president quoted the nation, when he debted the nation, the people from various constituencies across the country expressed their expectations through their members of parliament. Remember that the president had not addressed the country for a year and a half. So people were very expectant because a number of things had happened. There were a number of things that transpired in the nation that citizens generally felt needed the president's attention. Therefore, the Zambians, the citizens from across the country, had some legitimate expectations on what the president was going to talk about. I know that Zambians wanted to hear the president talk about ending load shedding, something that has really troubled many Zambians and brought down businesses. We continue to enjoy only 3 hours of power a day in most parts of the country. Zambians were very sure that the president was going to come up and tell the Zambian people that he was going to stop exports and end load shedding. Zambians wanted the president to seriously focus on the cost of living. Many Zambians are starving today. Many of our people from across the country are living in abject poverty. People thought the president was going to place a lot of emphasis on the cost of living. Payments to farmers. We are watching videos every day, farmers from across the country protesting against non-payment. Zambians thought the president was coming with solutions. The president was going to tell the nation when these farmers would be paid and exactly how the country would proceed. Our dear youths that are graduating every day, Comrade Sanga, when you're walking along or driving along Great East Road, you see, especially around Mulungushi, you see people moving with bouquet of flowers up and down. Their graduation ceremonies every so often. Our youths that are graduating from these universities, they stayed put in front of the televisions to try and listen to the president, hoping that he's finally gotten answers to their challenges of unemployment. It's not very long ago that you're signing social contracts with youths, telling them, just shout Bali, Chijob Muliwe. 4 years later, the youths were thinking that this time around, after a long silence, the president was indeed going to come up and shout Chijob Mulimo Wansi Msepela. Of course, Zambians were expectant that the president was going to denounce divisions, hate speech that we have seen rock most of our social media platforms. Unfortunately, you all listened to the president's address. Our position is that he missed an opportunity to unite the nation. He also missed an opportunity to address the economic hardships that the Zambian people are going through. He merely focused on blaming others and personal grievances. We want to remind the president that, Mr. President, the promises that you made to the Zambian people, you made them under your own volition. There was no one who forced the president to make the promises that he made. At the same time, knowing that Zambia is a Christian nation, the president still has an opportunity to come back to the nation and apologize for the failures on the promises that he made. So far, we've only had one admittance and one apology. The fact that he has failed in the energy sector. I was not very happy with that particular apology because he wanted to include all of us. Mr. President, you can't say we have all failed in the energy sector. You failed alone in that sector. Mr. President, you are the one that is encouraging export of power. You hold the power to make those decisions. So when you're admitting failure, don't include all the Zambians. We are not part of that failure. If we're given a chance, we would resolve the challenges to load shedding. Zambians were at some point convinced that we were experiencing load shedding because of the drought that we had experienced. The Minister of Information came later and assured the Zambian people that Cabinet was informed that this time around we had slightly above normal rainfall and that the situation would normalize by June. The water was on a journey, according to the minister, traveling from Northwestern Province. He predicted that that water would arrive at some stations at a given time. For some reason, and without any explanation, that water has not yet arrived. Mr. President, you can't hide. Your spokesperson spoke to the Zambian people, assuring them about this journey the water was taking from Northwestern Province. What has happened to that water? You are not telling us that there could have been some roadblocks along the way that the water has not yet arrived. You need to come clean and tell the Zambian people the truth. And that truth is that the current load shedding that we're experiencing is because you are exporting power. You can't take presidency as a side activity. Presidency is a full-time job. Mr. President, presidency is a full-time job. We do not expect you to prioritize business and abandon the interests and aspirations of the Zambian people. The suffering of the Zambian people should be a priority. Presidency should be centered on finding solutions for the Zambian people. What we are seeing is that presidency is now a side activity. What is prioritized is actually business. Why do I say so? When there's a problem in the mining sector with the foreign entities, those challenges are resolved immediately because they concern business. When there are challenges with the export of power, any hurdles are resolved immediately. If there are challenges to export maize, those challenges are resolved immediately. But when it comes to resolving the challenges for the poor Zambians, the people that voted for you, we start getting excuses. Mr. President, presidency is a full-time job. We would want to urge the president to take presidency as a full-time job. You cannot prioritize business at the expense of governing this country. Your government is very quick when it comes to business. Business with the mines, business with the power traders and everybody else. But the poor Zambians, Nakulumutinta Pamakasa. If we were worried about Nakulumutinta Uliali Pamakasa, what are you doing, President Hakainde Hichilema? Thinking about Nakulumutinta, Mutinta's grandmother on foot. What are you doing? What are you doing about her plight? Nakulumutinta na Makasa atwala matabaku shed nkushtisha with a view that she can get some money to feed her grandchildren left by her late daughters and children. Nakulumutinta delivered the maize to FRA and started waiting upon the UPND government. To date, Nakulumutinta has not been paid. Remember, she walks up and down kilometers to go and chase for payments. She supplied that maize in March. My question is, if you can move at the same speed that you do when it comes to resolving problems for your rich friends in the mining sector, if the same energy is deployed to resolving challenges for Nakulumutinta, Zambia will indeed be a better country. We want to call upon you, Mr. President. Your focus should be on that Nakulumutinta who is suffering every day. She can't find medicines at the hospital. She can't get her money even after she has supplied maize. She can't get her inputs. That's what the focus of your policies should be. That's what our focus should be. So yesterday, the president lost an opportunity to unite the nation, an opportunity to address the hardships that this country is facing. The president instead spent more time defending himself and his government than addressing real issues. There was so much emotion from the president and very little clarity on the cost of living, load shedding, farming inputs, among others. The president should have spent more time uniting the nation. He should have spent more time preaching love. The president instead spent time inciting people. How can he, honestly speaking? The president is now calling his cadres the powerful men. The president is emboldening his cadres that have been threatening people, threatening the church and men of the cloth. And the president actually adds and calls them the powerful. Very, very sad indeed. Yesterday was a very sad day for Zambia. Mr. President, I want to appeal to you that you should begin to change the way you look at the youth. Change the lens. Change the lens in the manner that you look at the youth. Let's look at our youths as partners in development. These youths have a lot of ideas. Mr. President, focus on bringing out the innovation in these youths. Let's sit down with them. Let's not shout at them. Let's not direct them. Let's sit down with them and reason with them. Let's ask them for those intelligent ideas. Don't deploy them and give them names like powerful men on the street. Tomorrow, they will not be youths. They'll be expected to fend for their families. Tomorrow, they'll be expected to live as responsible citizens. My call to you, Mr. President, is that there's a better way we can work with the youths. There's a better way we can engage the youths. There's a better way we can bring out the best from the youths and not deploy them on the street to go and attack others that merely do not agree with you. So it's a call to Mr. President that the youths of today are actually leaders of tomorrow, are leaders of today. The youths of today are actually leaders of today. Our position is that we work with the youths, we sit with them, we talk with them, we agree with them on how we are going to move. We are not going to be directing or talking at them, showing them or directing them. Because of the changing times, we have come to one realization that even some of the solutions the EPND is failing to, some of the challenges the EPND is failing to find solutions for, the youths that are seated here and the youths that are graduating from these universities can actually help resolve some of these challenges. So let's elevate the level at which we engage these youths. Some of the challenges that we face today can indeed be resolved. The other concern that we have, I think the president is mistaken. He needed to do a bit more research about the previous constitutional amendment processes. In his belief, he believes that all the other governments were amending constitutions in the election year. He deliberately ignored to mention that even if the final processes were done close to the election year, the processes actually started much earlier. Some of those processes, as highlighted by my colleagues, were actually there for 10 years. They were actually there for 10 years. The consultative processes were there for much longer. As a constitutional legal scholar myself, I want to tell you that an average constitutional amendment process would take not less than 3 years. So meaning that with a 5-year period in government, if a government intends to amend the constitution, you actually have to do it the very following year after being voted in. And the process is likely to end a few months before the election. Then there would have been a full consultative process. President Hakainde himself, I want to remind him, when we're in government and negotiating with the UPND on Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10, I was the government chief whip at the time. I was responsible for the negotiations between the Patriotic Front Party and 15 opposition political parties, including the UPND. We were sitting in one meeting room with President Hakainde at the Law Association of Zambia offices for a very long time, negotiating on these processes. President Hakainde was very critical. He actually was very emphatic on the need for consultations. He remembers that we sat for a very long time, even when we demonstrated that we had made several consultations. He would insist for more consultations. And for the information of the nation, most of these negotiations were happening with the help of the Catholic bishops, the church. It was President Hakainde who would actually propose and highlight the need for us to involve the Catholic bishops. Today, the same bishops that he would run to, the same bishops that he referred to, he would like to set his youths upon these bishops. It's very, very sad indeed. President Hakainde, I want you to go back 2019, 2020. These negotiations were done, and our Catholic bishops and the church in general played a key role in ensuring that they brought us together to dialogue. It was out of that dialogue that, if you remember, the first bill that was gazetted for Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 and the final one that came to Parliament, there's a big difference. For instance, the final one did not have deputy ministers. There were a number of things that were removed from that bill at negotiation stage because we were able to come to the table to negotiate as stakeholders. But today, President Hakainde Hichilema, you would like to convince the Zambian people that people do not like you because everybody else amended the constitution in the election year. No, sir. Even when the process was ending in the election year, these processes had been ongoing for not less than 2 years. The process that you're undertaking under Bill 7 is a process that was commenced only a few months ago. Our call, Mr. President, is that we want a people-driven constitution. That's all that we ask for. Today, there's been some cosmetic consultations, some people going around spending government money, not using money prudently. The questions to ask, how did you communicate with the people in Kaputa, with the people in Chiluvi? There was no translation to the local languages. The consensus required in this particular process is not the elitist consensus, where only those that can read and write or speak English are the ones that are consulted. The people in Hakainde needed to contribute to this process. I haven't seen a bill translated in the local languages. Our people who are visually impaired are now complaining they're not involved. And yet, President Hakainde Hichilema would like to argue, to say some of these amendments are in the best interests of the people with disabilities. The people themselves, the people with disabilities themselves, are speaking for themselves. They're saying, we have not been consulted. We did not see these particular proposed amendments. So these consultations were cosmetic. I remember that I was in Kasama and tried to find out how the process was being undertaken. It's indeed a shame. It was very clear that it's a process with a predetermined outcome. A constitutional amendment process should not be like that. If at all President Hakainde Hichilema would like to come up with a durable constitutional amendment, with a durable constitution, we needed to be very serious in the manner that we did our consultation. So President Hakainde Hichilema, I would like to tell you that your view that people do not like you is actually flawed. President Hakainde Hichilema, right across the provinces, you are getting over 40% of the votes. When did the Zambians stop liking you? They gave you the votes, even in your non-strongholds. So today you cannot turn around and say people do not like me. And I would like to correct one thing, Mr. President. This constitution is a document for the Zambian people. It's not for you as an individual. President, while you're taking it personal, you think that constitution is your personal document. No, sir. You are so annoyed because you think it's your personal document. That document is a national document. It's for all of us as Zambians. The moment you remove that perception of thinking that that document is just a document that should work for you, then you'll understand that the Zambian people actually love you. The only thing they do not like you not fulfilling the promises. So don't accuse the Zambian people that they do not like you. A constitution, Mr. President, is a document that disciplines government. A document, the reason why it must be people-driven. Governments are so strong. Governments can actually even bypass watchdog institutions. Governments can overlook institutions that are there to check their power. That's why the grand norm, which is the constitution, is there to discipline especially dishonest governments. So you must have a constitution that is people-driven. That's the only time people have power to check the excesses in the exercise of power on part of their government. That is the reason why the constitution-making process should not be government-driven, because the constitution is there to check the excesses in the exercise of power by governments. It's there to discipline governments. It's there to discipline especially dishonest governments. So, Mr. President, that is the reason why there's been resistance. Because you'd like to come up with a constitution that favors you as a person, that perpetuates your stay in power. even when you're failing on all fronts, Zambians are saying, can we do it properly? Can we do it properly so that we have a constitution that comes from the Zambian people? The president also talked about PF regrouping. Yes, the PF are regrouping, as you can see, but we are regrouping for a good reason. We have come to realize that if we continue on this trajectory, the suffering of the Zambian people would continue. The members of parliament seated here and other members of Central Committee and members of the party have come together. We are regrouping so that we can begin to resolve the economic hardship for the Zambian people are going through. We are regrouping so that we can end load shedding by stopping the export of power. We are regrouping now so that we can provide good checks and balances now, and of course, resolve the solutions in the future. So we are regrouping now so that farmers, are paid on time. We are regrouping now so that, our farmers can receive their inputs on time. That's the reason why we are regrouping. We are not regrouping for any ulterior motives. We would like to assure the Zambian people that we are regrouping to come back to power to resolve the many challenges that you're facing. So, Mr. President, if you look at the people that are regrouping for other reasons, I think we are all on social media. We know who are threatening Zambians every day. We know the youths that are busy threatening Zambians every day. Those are the ones that may be regrouping, for ulterior motives. So, Mr. President, going forward, please, let's preach unity amongst ourselves. I would like to call upon the Zambian people to ignore the sentiments by the president that border on tribalism and hatred. Would encourage the president that for once, he must come and address the nation, preaching love and unity. That should be his priority. I also want to call upon the president and his members of his party to continue to respect the church and men of the cloth as they continue to provide spiritual guidance to all of us. And that the constitution is for all of us, it's not a personal document. And also call upon the president to abandon Bill 7, as was guided by the Constitutional Court. We just thought we could have some reactions to yesterday's presser that I think raised a number of concerns amongst our people. So I think with those few remarks, I would like to end here and say thank you to all of you, members of the media, and indeed members of parliament that came to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Honorable Brian Mundwile. And I think that is a very, very elaborate presentation of all the issues that we've raised. At this stage, if there's anyone, the question will give you just one opportunity, but I see none. At this stage, allow me just to close this important event. We will be calling upon you, and we want to thank you once again, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, for turning up for our events, even at short notice. And I think this is how it should be, and this is important because all these issues involve the nation. As you know, we are the Patriotic Front. We are a party. We are a pro-poor political party. And we stand by that principle, and that's why we have to react and just tell the nation that we are there for you. Thank you very much. Once again, we just come to the end of this program. I thank you.
Thank you.